Second, it is in question form. Third, it is empirically testable, which means that at the end of your study, okay, you have already a result that has been empirically tested, which means should be measurable. You have a metrics for that. It has to be specific or precise. Okay, assumptions, restrictions, and limitations, all of them should be explicit. So, if we are to have an abstraction of a certain phenomenon, okay, we have to be able to delineate between attribute variables and active variables. Okay, so when you say attribute variables, it is the characteristic of the subjects that cannot be manipulated, such as age, health belief, or weight. You cannot manipulate that. Okay? While on the other hand, the active variables are created by researcher and can be controlled, changed, or manipulated. For example, if you're a teacher, teaching strategy, you can change that. Or nursing intervention, or if, for example, treatment, or concentration of the substance, it is something that you can change. So that's what you call active variable, which means that concepts or phenomena are something that you observe and you cannot manipulate it, while constructs are something that you can manipulate, and this is invented by the or manipulated by the researcher. Now, let's talk about variability. Okay, so when we speak of variability, we talk about homogeneous, and the other one is heterogeneous. Okay, homogeneous is variably limited. Okay, so for example, you want to study bacteria, and you want to concentrate on a certain genus only, Staphylococcus only, or use Epidermidis saprophyticus. So it's homogeneous in that context. While on the other hand, when you say heterogeneous, this is extremely varied. So types of variables could be continuous, such as height, discrete, such as number of children. That's the reason why, for example, when a while ago when I was counting you in the class, you are 35. And then I told you that there should be 4 groups per each section. So when I divided 35 over 4, the result is 8.75. So I cannot say, oh, each one of you, each group should have 8.75 members. So anong gagawin nyo sa isa? Hahatiin ninyo into 3? Di ba? Hindi pwede yun. So that's the reason why I told you that. So if you are 35 in each section, the first 3 groups should have 9 members, while the other group should have 8 members. Kasi nga, the type of variable, number of students, that is an example of a discrete variable. Then, categorical variable. So, for example, marital status. Okay? Or are you single, married, widowed, or in a situationship? So that's a categorical variable. While on the other hand, dichotomous variable could be sex, male or female. By the way, I need to categorize it. Yung gender pala is no longer considered as dichotomous. So nasa categorical na yan. Kasi apparently, in social research, yung gender pala is divided into several class. Yung LGBTQ++++. Yon. Pero yung dichotomous, kapag biological sex yung pag-uusapan, it is dichotomous because either male or female. Definition of terms, there's also what we call conceptual definition. So when we say conceptual definition, it is the abstract or the theoretical meaning of a concept being studied. For example, when we define pain, it is an unpleasant sensation that can range from mild, localized discomfort to agony. So that's the conceptual definition. But when you say operational definition, the operations that must be performed to collect the desired data, how will you be able to use pain in the context of your research? Therefore, the operational definition of pain, for example, in the context of your study is the distance from zero indicated by a patient on a 10-centimeter line to indicate, so for example, the severity of his pain with 0 representing no pain and 10 representing the worst pain. So in this case, ito na yung operational definition natin. O i-rate mo from 0 to 10, how is your pain? So yan. So that is already operational definition. And from that, we can now get your data. So when we speak of relationships and bonds between variables, so what the concept that we are trying to dig here is the connection between concepts. Okay. So in quantitative term, it could be a cause and effect relationship. Okay. Or in qualitative term, it could be the pattern of association or the measure of association, which is usually being used in epidemiological study. So when you say cause and effect relationship, the relationship is causal. So and when you say functional relationship, it is associative relationship. Now, in terms of statistics, this is also very important. So for example, you want to measure the cause and effect relationship, which means that you cannot interchange your variables. You cannot interchange your dependent and independent variables because that is a cause and effect relationship. Smoking causes cancer. Okay. Now, when you say functional relationship, okay, so in this graph, you can see the life expectancy of men and women depending on the years that they were born. Okay, so that's an example of associative relationship. Okay, so in terms of statistics, okay, if you are measuring cause and effect relationship, the statistical analysis that you're supposed to use is regression. But if you are measuring functional or associative relationship, the type of statistical analysis that you should be using would just be a correlation because you just want to determine the correlation coefficient, which could either be positive or negative. Okay, so here in MedTech, most of the relationship that we will be studying is quantitative. So the first question is, does relationship exist? Hindi yung meron ba tayo, hindi ito yun ha. Does relationship exist? So the question, the research problem here or the research question is, do people in the low income bracket tend to resort to traditional herbal cures? So that's an example of if you want to know if there is an existing relationship. Second, direction of relationship. Does the frequency of hand washing increase the weight of a person? So the answer here could either be positive or negative. So ang example nito, the concentration of a substance is directly proportional to the absorbance of a substance. Beer's law, that's an example of a positive relationship. Or there could also be an inverse relationship. Diba? So the concentration of a substance is inversely proportional to the percent transmittance. So that's an example of negative relationship. Now, the strength of relationship. So an example, which factor considerably increased healthy practices in the community? Okay, so in order to answer this statistically, so you can do person correlation or Spearman-Rowe, and these particular statistics will give you correlation coefficient. And then nature of relationship. Does boiling water itself reduce occurrence of waterborne diseases? Yeah. So, associations in qualitative study. So, an example, as we rarely do qualitative study in clinical lab science or in health research. But if in case that you do, here's an example of a question that pertains to the associations in qualitative study. So why is there a lack of concern for dental hygiene among people? And is this a result of the personal experience of toothaches? So in this particular study, this is a type of question that is usually being used in phenomenology. Because in phenomenology, we want to determine the lived experience. Okay, now, let's talk about the types of variables. So, there are two main types of variables. So, we have the independent variable, which is the presumed cost, and then the dependent variable is the presumed effect. Now, in doing so, we also have extraneous variable. So extraneous variable are not part of is neither part of the independent variable nor the dependent variable, but it can affect the relationship. For example, in this particular case, it says here the type of parent care will affect the child's health. So the independent variable is parent care, the types of parent care, while the dependent variable, which is the presumed effect, will be the child's health. However, age is considered to be as extraneous variable because it is not part of your independent or dependent, but if you're going to do analysis when you write your paper, you will find that age will also be a factor in determining child's health. Because, for example, if you want to know cases of parasitism, usually yung mga preschool children would be more susceptible to have parasitism as compared to those children who are already in the school. So that's an example of extraneous variable. So there is also a concept in the logical reasoning processes. So in quantitative term, we have the deductive reasoning. So we have from general idea, you'll have observations, various observations until you'll come with a conclusion or specific idea. Or in qualitative term, usually we are doing the inductive reasoning. So you have a specific idea, and because of the series of observations that you had, then you'll come up with a conclusion, which is your general idea. So most of the time, on quantitative studies, which most of us will be using, we are gonna deal with deductive reasoning. So for example, okay, smoking causes lung cancer. That's the general idea. So you have a survey of smoking habits and lung cancer prevalence in the community. And then another observations, few smokers have lung cancer. Until such time that you'll come up with a very specific idea that there are several influencing factors that can result to lung cancer. Okay, so this is an example of from general to specific, and that is the deductive reasoning. Now, for example, for inductive reasoning, you have a specific idea at first, caring behaviors of fathers. And then you observe and interview fathers in a community. You have variable methods, and approaches exist until you come to such a conclusion, which is a general idea that fathers take time to consider the care of children. So in this case, it is an example of inductive reasoning. So what you'll do actually is you have to think of an idea, you have to research your topic, you have to plan your experiment, you do the experiment, you collect and record your data, until you came to a certain conclusion. So this is the scientific method that you will do. So in your research, title defense next week, you have to have a research question, that is the specific problems, the specific queries the researcher wants to answer in addressing the research problem. Okay, so you should also have a statement of purpose, which is your general objective. This is the researcher summary of the overall study goal. So usually it is the title of your study that is expressed in statement form. And then you'll have your research aims or objectives or specific objectives. The specific accomplishment to be achieved by conducting the study. So remember the SMART objective. Diba? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, and then if you are doing quantitative study, you should have a hypothesis. Okay, which states a prediction or tentative solution to a problem. So hypothesis could be a simple hypothesis or a complex hypothesis. So when you say simple, it expresses a predicted relationship between one independent variable and one dependent variable. When you say complex, it states a predicted relationship between two or more independent variables and/or two or more dependent variables. Hypothesis could also be directional or non-directional. So when you say directional, it predicts the direction of a relationship. So you can say there is a positive relationship between the blood sugar and the amount of exercise. So that's directional hypothesis. Or non-directional hypothesis predicts the existence of a relationship, but there is no direction. So you can say there is a relationship between the weight of the patient and the blood sugar. So you did not say if it's a positive or negative relationship. And then if you are to test hypothesis testing using statistical analysis, then you should have null hypothesis. And it's actually different between the research hypothesis. So in research hypothesis, you state the actual prediction of a relationship. But in statistical or null hypothesis, you express the absence of a relationship, usually in statistical tests, so that after you did the statistical test, you will be able to have a decision whether you reject or do not reject the null hypothesis. You do not say accept the null hypothesis. You either say reject or do not reject the null hypothesis. So, for example, of a null hypothesis, there is no significant difference between the standard anticoagulant and the anticoagulant A. Yung anticoagulant A yung na-invento nyo. So pag sinabi mo there's no significant difference, that is an example of a null hypothesis. So you, for example, magti-t-test ka, and in the result of the t-test, you will come up with a decision whether to reject or do not reject the null hypothesis. So if you reject the null hypothesis, your final conclusion is there is a significant difference between the standard anticoagulant and anticoagulant A. Okay, so hindi na tayo magko-quiz. So this should be the component of your title defense. Okay. Research title. You should have a clear, concise statement of the research topic. One slide for that. Okay. Brief overview explaining introduction and background. One slide. So you have to explain significance and context of the research. You have to have citations. And by the way, in EAC, we are using APA format. Okay, you could have several slides for research rationale and objectives. So again, pag sinabi nating objectives, Kapag research problem, it is in question form. Kapag objectives, it is in statement form. But in this case, we will be using objectives. Yung research rationale is justification for study, one slide. And then research objectives, one slide for general objective. That is your main objective. And then several objectives for the specific, or several bullets for the specific objectives. Okay, preliminary literature review. Perhaps you can identify, Doc Dennis, ilang mga literature or ilang research journal sa napili nila dito, yung pwede nilang i-present. Doc Dennis, nandito ka pa ba?
Nandito. Ay, wait lang.
Mga dito sa preliminary, kahit ano lang, no? Identify muna nila yung mother journal nila dito. Pwede ba yung gano'n?
Opo, mga siguro at least 5.
Oo. Pero dapat meron silang pinaka-main journal nila, no? Yung mother journal.
Opo.
Okay. And then significance and potential impact. So importance of the research and who are the stakeholders. So it will benefit, for example, usually palasak na yung future researchers, di ba? Pero lagi talaga nilalagay yun. Medical technology, very specific. How will it contribute to the field? Tapos, yung research methodology, you don't have to be specific. Since title defense pa lang to, hindi pa naman to proposal defense, kailangan dito, sabihin nyo lang yung, yung kahit yung schematic diagram. Okay? Framework or schematic diagram. Hindi yung yung ag 3 ml of blah, 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 di ganon. And then, expected outcomes, anticipated results and their implications. Dito pwede kayo maglagay ng dummy tables. Okay? Feasibility and resources. Ito yung gusto kong makita. Ano ba yung mga kailangan? Okay, yung expensive ba to? Ano ba yung mga equipment na kailangan? Timeline, and then ethical considerations. Okay, so each group will be given 10 minutes for the title defense. Okay, so if you are 12 groups, so 4 times 3, 12, 120, so 2 hours. So tama-tama. Okay, so okay ba yun? So yun lang yung mangyayari next week. Yung title defense natin next week. So 10 minutes per group. And then, ang lang namin, ang response lang namin ni Doc Dennis, approve or disapprove. Kapag disapprove, you have to do, siguro 3, Doc Dennis, no? Approve, revise, disapprove.
Opo.
Ayan, tatlo lang. Kapag revise, babaguhin nyo lang based dun sa suggestion. Pero kapag disapprove, you have to do another title defense again. So 10 minutes per group. Do you have any question? Ms. Durian, my question. Go ahead.
Sir, din yung pagka-title defense po ba namin, per section po or lahatan po ulit?
Lahat. Lahatan. We'll start with 4-1. Kasi magpa-plenary ulit kami ni Doc Dennis dito. Plenary kami.
At saka at the same time, para makita natin kung may nag-overlapping na topic. Para sa lahat.
Okay. So, ayun. Any more question? Okay? Para 10 minutes lang per group on site. So, hindi natin kailangan ng malaking group. Isa per group yung pasok. So, we'll start with 4-1. So, paka-identify sino yung groups 1 to 4, 4-2, groups 1 to 4, 4-3, groups 1 to 4. Okay? Or para hindi nakakalito, ang number of groupings natin, sa 4-2, mag-start tayo sa group 5 hanggang group 8. Tapos sa 4-3, groups 9 hanggang group 12. Ganun na lang yung numbering natin sa grouping. Para isa lang yung group 1 natin sa lahat. Okay ba yun?
Tama po yun din kasi para sunod-sunod na.
Para sunod-sunod. So si Janu, si RV, and then si Reinhardt, kailangan nyo i-identify yung groups 1 to 4, and then 5 to 8, 9 to 12. Now, I'm giving you only until 8 p.m. today, 8 p.m. today na mag-grouping. Kasi kung hindi nyo ma-accomplish yan, kami ang mag-group sa inyo in random order. Okay? So 8 p.m. sa GC natin, dapat meron naka-identify na group leaders and members. We will assign your thesis advisor. So, pwedeng ako, pwedeng si Doc Dennis, and then any faculty members dito sa SMLSP. So, medical lab science and biology. So, ang maganda ngayon is that kasama natin yung mga medbio and marami rin sa kanila ay expert. So, meron tayong bagong faculty, Doc Ambita, expert din sa mold bio and biochem. So, pwede natin kunin. So, ako yung mag-a-assign, ako yung mag-decide kung sino yung magiging research advisor. So, again, based na rin sa expertise ng research advisor. Kasi ang minimum requirements to be a research advisor is at least merong master's degree. Any more questions?